my gratitude to you for not just for doing this episode, but also for really standing up to what you've been fighting for since God knows when. And watching you yesterday testifying in Congress and standing up to the
Yes.
person beside you, that was, and maintaining your equanimity, maintaining your composure, and still very forceful. I really, really admire that.
I just really have to be calm.
Yeah. So I'd like to talk
Thank
a
you,
little,
thank you. I just okay.
but I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that, because one of my takeaways from that hearing is with you that being there is very important,
Okay.
because um, you know this hearing to me as a rights advocate, as you know, is a great opportunity for us in the human rights community to really educate the public about what this is all about, what human rights is. And you were there
Yes.
yesterday, and even before that, uh, emphasizing the importance of human rights. And so my first question to you, Senator Leila, is, when you go into this hearing, obviously you seek redress, you're demanding accountability, but is this something that's in your head na tipong, okay, we should do something much more than mag-express ng
Yes.
mga ano natin?
Yes. Yes, because every opportunity that I have in terms of really pushing for justice for the victims of Duterte's drug war, I always take it. Because it's been really a struggle all these years, no accountability yet for all these thousands of victims. So, things like that. It's a great platform to really push and demand for the truth and also for accountability. And, I have to tell you that at first I was skeptical about the Quadcom because
Yeah.
I really thought that it was just all political, because there was this breakup of the unit team. So they're just really going to make it difficult for the Dutertes. But when I started attending the hearings, and I could see that some of them, if not most of them, do ask sensible questions. And in fact, I could see that they're even better than those in the Senate, except for Sanrisa, for example, Montiveros. You saw how the first hearing on the EJ case, with the first appearance of the former president there, you
But
saw how it turned out.
that was terrible.
All his minions, his diehard senators, were all there defending him. And
Yeah.
then this Bato and then this Senator Bongo, they're being implicated, and yet they're there. They did not have the delicadeza to at least inhibit themselves, and instead it's all hallelujahs for the former presidents, which was really disappointing. In fact, I came out of that hearing with a severe headache, after listening to all of those. Now, the Quadcom is rather different. There are, there's still room for improvement, but you can see that number one, they are determined. Number two, they are courageous. Some of them really would call out Mr. Duterte yesterday. So, and then the way it's proceeding, there have been revelations, there have been witnesses coming out. There's hope. But then again, you know, I think this is also your position, Kaloy. We still think that ICC should still continue with this
Yeah.
investigation
Well, that,
because you can never tell. What if there's a change of political wind? Right
yeah.
now, they're proactive about it. They're um, very active. They really based on the optics and based on how they handle the hearings and ask questions, we could see that we can expect some substantive outcomes, especially in terms of recommendations for legislation. And they did start filing some bills already, like the
Yes.
anti-EJK bill or the Kian bill, right?
Yeah.
Now, but then what if from the level of the congressional inquiries and now being turned over to the investigative and prosecutorial services. What if nothing happens or the process would be very slow? Although, of course, a few days ago, we all heard about the creation of the DOJ task force, and they were given 60 days. And I said, wow, that's humanly impossible for them with so many things to look into, to validate and do case build up. They can never do it in 60 days. So perhaps they can issue a partial report and partial recommendations, but that's not yet the whole thing. So they must be really rushing this DOJ task force. But what if it would stall there at their level, and later it would just result in the filing of cases, criminal cases, with respect to the low-level perpetrators again? And that is not what the ICC is asking. You know, that is why the complementarity principle is not yet operative, because they do not see that. There is a genuine, honest to goodness investigation of those individuals with the highest responsibility, meaning Mr. Duterte, Bato de la Rosa, and the other police generals there who had some hand in the implementation of Tokhang. So what if it does not reach that stage? And most of all, what if there is a sudden change in political wind? I think you know what I mean.
Yes.
On or before 2028, there might be some change there. So there would be it would not be sustained. What happens now again to the victims?
Actually,
if ICC would end its investigation. Yes.
Actually, that's an excellent point, Senator. And in fact, that led me some. Obviously, ICC is looking at the most responsible one. It could be it's Mr. Duterte. But as I told a colleague today, because Mr. Duterte, during the hearings, he's trying to create kind of a situation where every responsibility should stop sa kanya. That's what you're saying there, right? And so he's probably gambling that the ICC would just focus on him. But my view is that, and you probably share this too, any investigation, be that by the ICC or even any crimes against humanity investigation in the Philippines using the RA 9851, the internal IHL law, should actively and robustly look at the culpability and pin down the others like Bato and all his minion and all of Duterte's minion nationwide or even in Davao City as well. Because look, and I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sound cruel to the former president, but right now, and he himself has said it, he doesn't care anymore if he rots in jail in the ICC, and he's like that.
Yes.
My ano na siya, and all he cares about now is his family and his people. So, if he goes to the ICC, he sets himself up to be a martyr, and which is exactly what he's trying to do now, and that just worries me.
Yeah, and that's why. Well, and this stance about I take full and complete legal and moral responsibility. I actually pointed it out in the Quadcom yesterday. Now, do they think that because of that assumption by Duterte of sole responsibility, the others will be absolved already? No, they will still be. They can still be charged because they are complicits. That's also in the RA 9851, the one who orders, solicits, and induces, right, the commission of these crimes against humanity. That's principal by inducement. And those who cooperate with him in carrying out. So that means the generals, and then, of course, the hitmen themselves, the death squad themselves. So all of those can be charged. Now, Mr. Duterte and then the Bato as the chief enforcer, and then the rest of police hierarchy who had a hand in that. So, akala ni Mr. Duterte, by saying so, by admitting sole responsibility, all the rest would now be cleared or absolved. That is not what is the case. I mean, that's not going to happen. They will still be charged unless, some of them would turn state witnesses. And I think the ICC follows or adopts the same process or principle that when you are state witness, you will be granted some kind of immunity. Now,
Yeah.
Las Cañas was actually granted limited immunity. But if you don't qualify and turn a state witness, you will be charged also. So yun, nakala siguro niya ganun.
Yeah,
So, and then naglalaro din siya. Maybe he's taunting na, okay, so on the outside, he is really daring ICC. Although inconsistent naman siya, nag-flip-flop na naman siya. He was questioning na naman the jurisdiction. Akala ba natin magsusurrender na siya? So that means he recognizes the jurisdiction of the ICC. And then dinidare na naman niya yung DOJ to file. Perhaps part din yung strategy niya talaga yon. Na if he is charged here domestically, then ICC might stop already under that complementarity principle. So naglalaro siya eh. He's playing some kind of a game.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Senator, the gambit here of Mr. Duterte is that he thinks that by taking on the ICC and making himself out to be kind of a persecuted martyr by these white Western world guys, white guys, as he called them, he will anger his base, and he will cajole his people to rise up again to support him. I think that's the gambit. But also, I think, again, going back to the idea na dapat talaga habulin din yung mga lower level niya, I think he's banking on he's thinking na pag siya lang ay hinuli ng ICC, lahat wala kakalimutan na. And I think all of us should make an effort na, hey, hindi ganyan kadali yan. It's not that's not how it works. But he's selling this line to the public. But let's shift a little bit now, Senator. Okay, so all of this is going on, at least kahit papano, regardless of our misgivings with the Quadcom and definitely with the Senate, at least something's moving. And in fact,
something's moving, yeah.
In fact, ang pinaka ko dito, Senator, sa Quadcom hearings is that it's giving victims such as yourself and the families of the drug war victims some space to speak their truth, and I think that's very very important. And and the Quadcom should make an effort really. Sometimes medyo nakakainis na pakinggan. Dapat maigsi lang dapat 2 minutes lang ganyan. Pero I mean, you can possibly expect these mothers to talk about what happened to their loved ones in just 2 minutes, right? But it's there. But it's there. So my question is
some
you.
Effort.
Go ahead.
No. Okay, go ahead.
My question out to you. Okay. My question out to you, Senator, is that beyond this, looking for accountability, for making sure that Mr. Duterte answers for his crimes, what should the public take from this experience, from this episode in our life? I mean, here we have an international accountability mechanism that seems to be on its course. And yet, on the other hand, we still have a huge problem domestically about our own accountability mechanisms. There's a huge gap between rhetoric and reality on the ground when it comes to criminal justice system, for criminal justice, for instance. So as a former DOJ secretary, as a former CHR commissioner, where do we go from here after this?
Okay, my take is that the public, we should assume the attitude of cautious optimism. Okay, let's be optimistic. Let's always think of hope, that there's still hope, kahit papano, even if it's taking long. But then again, because you can never tell really the political fortunes of our country, then we should, as I said, we should still be relying on the ICC. And also, do some, introduce some significant reforms in the criminal justice system. Because, it's been acknowledged, even Mr. Duterte himself yesterday was saying it's weak and inefficient, it's flawed. That's why I have to inject the death penalty, because they mentioned that in the course of the questioning there. I had to inject death penalty, and again, I tell them that it's not the right remedy. So, ano yun? Because we have to fix first our criminal justice system. Because if it takes so long, and then if we always have this political harassment suits, then nothing will happen. Our justice system will not be trusted really by the people. Now we are seeing, and that's why I'm hoping that indeed ICC would act soon. That a warrant of arrest would be issued soon, so the people would realize, look at that. There's an international mechanism of accountability. Now, we saw that it is working and it works. Then it's also a challenge for us to improve our domestic mechanisms of accountability, so that we don't have to go to other forums, to the international mechanisms of accountability to address our own problems with respect to justice issues. Diba? Take it as a challenge. Kaya ganyan nangyayari, the victims shifted to ICC because they see that the justice system was not working for them. It was a failure for them. It may have been worked to some cases like mine, because my case they floated, they flaunted that as proof that the justice system in this country is working, because I was acquitted in the end. But what kind of workings of a justice system is it if it takes almost 7 years?
7 years, yeah. The cruel irony there.
Yeah, so that's it. That is what I'm hoping, that ICC, that there would be a significant development in the ICC in the next few days, and then that would also propel our government's a change of heart with respect to rejoining Rome Statute. We must rejoin the Rome Statute for any future eventuality. What if there is another Duterte? What if there's another autocratic, totalitarian leader? That can very well compromise the domestic mechanisms of accountability. So I'm cautious optimism. Hope, but then so let's see. So it's good that the Quad hearings are going on, but you see, they cannot hold hearings forever.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
They have another job because their core mandate is legislation.
Yeah, at least not 16-hour hearings.
Yes, that's 16 hours. 16. So that's my take.
Yeah. My final point, Senator, before I let you go, I know you have some other stuff to do because of what happened yesterday. But my final point is this, and I'd like really, your thoughts about this. My feeling right now as a human rights advocate is that, this is kind of a crucial moment for the human rights movement in the Philippines, in terms of not just on our specific advocacy on accountability for all the extrajudicial killings, but in terms of trying to make the human rights movement much more responsive to human rights issues, even when the situations are easier, are much more manageable, because we tend to sometimes, okay, wala namang patayan, so let's look elsewhere. But I think that the problem with our country, and I think you'll agree with me here, is that our human rights institutions over the years have been degraded. And to be honest, and I'm not saying this because you're in front of me, it's only when you step on at CHR, when the CHR itself became much more, I would say, active, much more, responsive, I think, because for the longest time it was this calcified government bureaucracy, But then you came along and then
Yeah.
changes everything. So that's where my hope for the human rights movement is coming from. Do you have any thoughts on what else the human rights community should be doing from this point on?
Okay, first we should strengthen the Commission on Human Rights. And the CHR charter has to be passed. I passed that. The CHR, the act strengthening, the bill strengthening the Commission on Human Rights. Up to now, it does not have its own charter.
Yeah.
Its mandate, its powers and functions are just derived from the Constitution.
Yes.
But there are many things that can be given to the CHR, much support, financial, logistics in terms of manpower, in terms of powers and functions, but less than quasi-judicial functions. I really do not want, or prosecutorial functions of the CHR. I've been against. Now, we should all remember, and you know this very well, Kaloy, that the CHR is the overall monitor of the Philippine government's and all its instrumentalities compliance with treaty obligations and human rights principles. Now, if it assumes prosecutorial powers more than the investigative work and recommendatory work, policy recommendations, etc., will now be monitoring the monitor. So it's supposed to be just monitor all other agencies of government, but it can be strengthened by other means, like, giving it more resources, for more personnel, the really working personnel, the investigative personnel of the CHR. And then, of course, we have to undo and reverse the anti-human rights rhetoric of the former president, because he had so demonized the human rights. And most of the masses cannot really understand what human rights is. If you're a human rights advocate, they think you are an ally only of
the left,
the criminals, of the lawbreakers. They do not understand that human rights is such a broad concept, and that that it's important, because they don't understand that the state has advantages already. By the mere fact that it's the government with all of its instrumentality, it can take care of itself. But when individual beings, individual citizens are, the rights are being violated, then and whatever is the status of that individual, whether it's a criminal, a businessman, a small, a small vendor, etc., we have to fight for his rights, human rights.
That's true.
That the masses do not understand. That's why in the campaign, the electoral campaign, some people are advising me, do not focus always on human rights because it's not attractive to voters. But precisely, that's why I am running, so that I can further educate and bring the human rights world into the margin communities.
Yes.
Di ba, Kaloy?
Yeah.
So this is the situation. Kasi hindi daw mabili ang human rights, because what matters to the common voters are the gut issues. The gut issues. So hindi nila alam very much part of it. Even good governance, because if you have good governance, then you would have less corruption. If there is less corruption, there would be more resources for them, for the people, right?
It's just unfortunate.
I'm actually not, I still talk about human rights wherever we go. Yeah, against the advice of some mga
Yeah, well, you should keep doing that. Actually, we have just a final point. We have a common position on the prosecutorial power of the CHR. My personal position is that it shouldn't be that way, because we cannot usurp the executive function of accountability mechanisms in government.
Yes.
What we ought to do is help the executive department improve the delivery of justice and accountability in this country. We cannot do that ourselves. That's not our role, and I think in the long run that will be harmful to the human rights cause. That's my belief, Senator.
Agree.
And I'm really happy to hear that you're still at it, promoting human rights, even if your advisors probably said, "Oh, it's not, don't go there." But
It's not sellable.
yeah,
Sellable.
we can't
Yeah.
help it. Same with me.
Yes.
My instinct sometimes would say, "Oh, I shouldn't say this because I'm a different audience." But whenever you're on a platform, use that. And I think you're the best example of that. And so I really, again, I've been very very effusive of my praise for you, but it's a very well deserved praise and
Thank
admiration,
you.
Senator. So, and not just because you suffered almost 7 years in detention, but you were you were the human rights icon of the Philippines for a long time. Somebody that we look up to, and I hope you continue. I hope your foray into politics will be successful, and we're all here rooting for you.
That remains to be my core advocacy.